Alright, here we are for round 4. We're playing against Bezugo. We are going to be on the play, and we are hoping to get another victory here. I really need that trophy, you guys. Haven't been able to show you one. This hand obviously is a mulligan. This hand looks pretty good in some matchups. If we're playing against basically a deck with blue, this hand is pretty bad. Can't really keep this. Even with all the cards in my hand, I can't cast it, so don't really want that. I'd really like to draw a card advantage spell of some kind. I'm hoping to see a stompy creature, or nope, we lose. We have a terrible hand against this deck. And of course, scry to the bottom, draw the same card. Come on, Moto. Get your act together, The number of times this happens, I just don't think it's believable. I mean, obviously, it's going to happen some amount of the time, but like, there's less than a 2% chance to happen here. Draw the card you scry to the bottom. So we are playing against the blue-red Delver deck. It's one of the most popular decks in the format right now. I've been seeing it everywhere. Augur Bolas is their best card against us, and it doesn't look like he has one here. He is pretty obviously representing Spellstutter Sprite. Hopefully I can get some of these in the graveyard so I can cast this guy at some point. Like hopefully he plays a Spellstutter here and I just bolt it. Yep. Pretty obvious line of play from our opponent. Pretty easy bolt from me. I don't want to give him the chance to untap and ninja me, or untap and just to have an extra spell stutter up, because that means I can't burn them in response ever. So kind of what I'm trying to get at is if he had just played this and attacked me, and then he holds up 2 mana for like the rest of the game basically, I can never burn one of these without wasting an extra burn spell. So I don't want to have to do that. Alright, play this. I'm guessing we're going to see one more. This deck actually doesn't even play a full 4 counterspells, so I wouldn't be surprised if he didn't have a counterspell in hand. They just don't really play that many. Alright, so no sprite there. Very miscreant, not a problem. So the reason this is annoying though, so this is kind of what I was talking about before. So imagine I go to burn this. My opponent flashes in a Spellstutter Sprite. There's nothing I can do. I can't take them out. So that's pretty frustrating, and he's obviously representing a Spellstutter Sprite. So nothing I can do about it at this point. So I'm going to play this Bojuka Bog, and then I'll probably tap out for a Gourmet Gangler next turn. And I'm also in a pretty bad spot where if they play a Ninja here, my Bolt's going to get countered. This is the power of this deck. If they don't have to use any cantrips to set up, they can be incredibly efficient and hold up their mana every turn of the game, which is really frustrating because their deck isn't that consistent. Like they've got 10 cantrips or something. So if they don't need to use any of the cantrips at any point in the game, it's just really tough for us. I think I'm going to bolt this anyway because they're not going to tap a low Spellstutter Sprite no matter what. So they're going to Spellstutter Sprite to counter this. But it was a risk I was willing to take that risk here just because the value is so high if it works. So I do just get to Firebolt this guy. Then I have to decide if I want to play around Days. And I don't want to play around Days. They only play 1, and I think they've been cutting it. So I'm going to play this guy. Fortunately, this version of the deck, he's just going to be able to kill this on his next turn with Scred, so it's not even a good card. It's going to kill it for 1 mana right here, probably. So that's pretty brutal. And if he does, we'll be incredibly far behind. You can see we're like 3 or 4 cards behind right now, just because our draw has been pretty bad. We didn't draw any of the cards that are good in the matchup. So all of our card advantage spells are very good, since they're mostly relying on Spellstutter Sprites for everything. So I was talking earlier about that Lightning Bolt play and how I was willing to take a risk there because the payoff is very high. And that's true. So in this case, though, if they had a counterspell, I'd be fine. I'd play the bolt, and they would counterspell it, and it would be the same no matter what, and then I'd be able to firebolt their guy. I get punished a little more if they have a spell stutter sprite because then they get to counter it, and I don't get to kill the sprite. So on my turn, I could have firebolted the ninja and then bolted the spell stutter sprite with a trigger on the stack. But that guaranteed my opponent would be able to hit me with that ninja. Um, so I'm not sure. It might have been the wrong play, but it's the play I made. So our opponent's representing another spell starter sprite here, unfortunately, and there's nothing we can do about it. We're gonna get sort of 2-for-1 by it. Not too bad, but first I'm just gonna firebolt this Delver. My opponent's gonna counter it, and then I'll use this firebolt on the Delver again. Yep. So this is kind of the problem with having a lot of 1-mana removal in your deck. When you're playing against spell starter sprite, there's nothing you can do about it. If we had Electrickery here, we could just completely wreck our opponent, but I'm on these firebolts because I'm expecting more. I'm expecting more Stompy and red deck wins and stuff. Which, as you can see, I've played against red deck wins twice. We could probably concede right now, but I'll keep playing it out for you guys. They've got 6 cards in hand. We have none. I don't have any cards I can draw that are good in the matchup at this point. Like I won't be able to resolve anything. If they have a ninja here, they'll be able to ninja and a spell stutter, and then I won't even have unless I draw another Gourmet Gangler, which I can't because it's at the bottom. Okay, they didn't have a ninja, so that's a start, I guess. And they can't actually scred my Gourmet Gangler either. I think I'm gonna kill the Miscreant with my Firebolt at this point. Simply because if they draw another Miscreant, it isn't gonna matter. Or if they draw another Miscreant, they get to draw a card. So this is the one I'd rather get off the table than the Spell Stutter. I'm gonna go ahead and just pop the other one, another one too. My guess is this one's gonna get countered since I have no cards left in hand, and they were maybe wanted to hold up mana for that. Interesting though. So I assume I'm getting scredded here. No, a Delver. Didn't get scredded yet. Maybe they're holding back a bunch of Delvers or something. I just don't know what they have in their hand. Maybe they have like a lot of lands. I'm just confused about why nothing got countered last turn, nothing got cast last turn. I didn't get scredded yet. Seems like a pretty obvious scred right now, if they have it. Well, nothing for me to do though. One way I've beaten this deck a lot of times is I've just timed them out because they have to hold up counter spells all the time, and I never do. I never really have to hold up mana on their turn. I just cast my stuff. Looks like he was maybe considering keeping that back to chump block, so that would be nice. Rager is a good draw, and we're at the point where a spell stutter can't counter it either. No scred, huh? Well, I'm gonna jam this guy. So I am in a tough spot here. So if I jam this guy and it resolves, I'm in really good shape. I jam this guy and he counters it, that means he's free to use his mana next turn. Thing is, if I don't draw anything next turn, I'll be in the same spot again, and I'm just gonna run this guy out, basically, is what I'm saying. He's gonna counter it with the actual factual counter spell, so I did get punished there. Maybe the wrong decision. See what my opponent gets. Hopefully I don't flip to Scred. That would be like the most brutal. I guess Gush is like the second most brutal. The thing about Gush is if he picks up 2 lands, he won't be able to Scred this guy anymore. He can double bolt it if he hits another mountain, but they don't play many. They only play 2 usually. Maybe 3, but I think they only play 2 of these. So my opponent is off Scred at this point. Unfortunately, they can just like block with this Delver and bolt it, or block and Scred, even if they just found a Scred now. put one card on top, one card on the bottom. See what I draw. If I draw something that I can cast that I could have cast in addition to the Rager, it'll probably be pretty punishing, the fact that I didn't force my opponent to hold up 2 more mana this turn. So it looks like we're kind of close, but I don't think we are. This is a pretty obvious bolt from our opponent. Or it's a ninja. Okay. But I'm still pretty confident they have a bolt here. They're gonna block with their flip delver, and they're gonna uh, kill this with a bolt. I need to draw a 2 mana plus spell. Terminate is probably the best spell in my deck. That might actually win the game. Terminate. They have a dispel. This deck does play one main deck dispel. Brutal. Ugh. No. We top deck like champs, and yeah, we're done for. We are done for. I can't attack into this bolt. I just can't do it. Because then they'll get to ninja us over and over. Oh, that's brutal. So that I just kind of demonstrated there, though, why playing this Rager was a mistake. I would have been able to play the Rager that turn and resolve it while he was tapped too low for counterspell. Another Delver. Assume he's gonna attack with both of them, probably. Should probably just attack with the ninja. I'm clearly gonna block. No? No attacks, huh? So I would have drawn this with my Rager and I would have been able to cycle it. I'd have been down to like 1 mana. This would be a great spell to resolve. He's already cast 1 counter spell. I'm not going to make the same mistake I made last time. I don't think my opponent has a Scred yet. And I don't know. They're not even getting another mountain, which is crazy to me. What if, like, they must not have double bolt either? Or is this going to get one? Okay. See if my opponent's going to flip 2 here. Blind flip to bolt. Yep. We're super dead. So I don't think that Rager play really mattered. I wouldn't have been able to cast this Chief. I would have had a 2/2 in play right now. Okay. I can't block. I do have to attack here because I'm just dead to that bolt. Pretty crazy my opponent hasn't found any Screds yet. It's possible I should have just cast this Night's Whisper. Yeah, I almost certainly should have cast the Night's Whisper before I attacked. Let's see what this is getting countered with. Getting countered with nothing. I think we're dead no matter what. Yeah, there's nothing I can draw that will keep me alive here. Actually, I don't even want to show him this Magma Spray, so I'm just gonna concede now. I already saw this bolt, so we're dead. So we had a pretty bad draw there. I didn't draw any of my good cards kind of till the end, but we have a lot of sideboard cards for this matchup, so I kind of have like all of these cards are pretty good in the matchup. So it didn't really come up a lot there, but we do normally end up with a number of creatures in our graveyard if I actually ever draw any. Duress is obviously pretty good. It's pretty bad against Spellstutter Sprite, but in general it's good against the deck. Electrickery is one of our best cards. Lightning is a 2-for-1. We want all the 2-for-1s we can get, and then they play almost all their good spells are blue, and all their terrible spells are red, so want the Pyroblast for sure. Then definitely Thorn comes out. It's the worst card in the matchup by far. Flame Slash comes out. It's the worst removal spell in the matchup. Chainer's Edict also pretty bad in the matchup, and so is Terminate. Don't really want those cards very much. Our Echoing Decay is very good. Firebolts are good. I need these because they're going to bring in Stormbound Geist. I normally board out some number of. I'm going to board out all the Thermal Alchemists as well. So, reason being, it's not a 2-for-1. And they have a ton of answers for it. So, even though our opponent couldn't find any removal spells that game, um, they play like 6 removal spells, plus they're probably gonna have 3 Hydroblasts, so that's a ton of removal for Thermal Alchemist that he just gets hit by 1 mana and removed, and that is not worth it to me. So all in all, we are boarding out 6 creatures and boarding out 6 removal spells. I'm bringing in 3 removal spells, and then Pyroblast is also basically a removal spell, and then I'm bringing in a couple card advantage spells in order to replace these non-card advantage spells, and then Duress, kind of to just force my stuff through if I can. There is something to be said for Terminate over Firebolt, because Firebolt is sorcery speed, but I still would rather have the value, so I'm gonna stick with that. Chainer's Edict is bad because they have all those we got all those extra fairies lying around, and it just doesn't do what you want. So I'm gonna go with this. Um, Beetleback Chief is really good to resolve, and obviously Angler was still pretty good there, even though Scred it normally just dies to a Scred. Like, it's not usually a particularly impressive card in the matchup. All right, would I like to play first? Yes, I would. This hand looks fine. We definitely like seeing Night's Whisper in our hand. Lead off with this. If he plays a creature, I'm gonna Pillar of Flame it and play the Bajuka Bog. Otherwise, I'll Night's Whisper. Hopefully your opponent has to spend a little bit of time dawdling around with some cantrips. It looks like they don't have to. So it's imperative to get these off the board right away, because you lose your ability to kill them with 1 mana removal in the face of the future spell stutters. And I really need to do that there because like now I can just cast my Night's Whisper into their 2 open mana. All right. Opponent's taking a little time, so if we go to 3 games, especially last game went a lot faster than you would expect a game in this matchup to go. You can see we're pretty far ahead of our opponent on time, and that could be an issue for them. So Ash Baron's getting a mountain, playing the mountain. That's not great for them. So I kind of think our opponent is short on. I think our opponent is short on lands, so it might be a good time to Blightning, especially since I know I can resolve it. But I think I'd rather just play this Night's Whisper. It's pretty important. I can't hold up any reds, so I'm just gonna play the Bloodfell Caves. I didn't see any Augur Bolas out of our opponent, so they might be on an older version of the list. Before Augur Bolas was a 3 of, but it's normally a 3 of in the main deck, and I think they play it a 4th one in the sideboard, so maybe our opponent just hasn't quite updated his list yet or something. I'm not really sure what's going on at this point. Okay, there's an Augur Bolas. It's by far the best card in the deck against us. Finds a counterspell, pretty annoying. But our opponent doesn't have anything. The reason it's so good is that like I can just never attack into it. I'm going to save this Blightning until our opponent is down a little lower on cards. We'll play this Rager and hold up Pyroblast. The reason the Augur is so good is, first of all, it's a 2-for-1, because I'm going to have to kill it with a burn spell, and they almost always find something with it, which is annoying. And I can just never attack into it with my 2/2s, like this Rager can't attack into an Augur, and if they play a second Augur, then I can't even attack if I have multiples. So it gets to be pretty obnoxious. Our draw is not improved particularly, a particularly large amount so far. That's okay. I don't mind them spreading that. So I think they're brainstorm locked if they don't have a land here. Yeah. Ooh, I'll play that guy, that's for sure. I'll play this mountain and play Beetleback Chief. Again, though, the Augur Bolas completely blanks our Beetleback Chief. We just simply cannot attack into this Augur Bolas with any of our creatures. So that's a pretty rough one. Alright, our opponent is not brainstorm locked completely. They do have a Ponder to play. I'm not Pyroblasting these simply because I don't think they're that important. This is going to be a long game, and my opponent is going to find their lands. We're not going to race them or anything. So, see what they've got. Fairy Miscreant, not particularly important. I am probably going to have to kill it with a Magma Spray, but I might leave it in play for now. I'm going to hit our opponent with a Bajuka Bug here. This deck plays Swirling Sandstorm in the sideboard, and I want to make that card dead. So, since I drew this Bolt, I'm going to bolt the Augur and then just attack, and then I'll be able to hold up Pyroblast and Magma Spray, and that should be able to take out a Ninja. Unless they have like double Dispel, which would be pretty annoying, but I don't know. I don't really expect that to be the case, so let's go ahead and bolt this guy. Fortunately, I can't cast my Blightning this turn and hold up both of my red spells. So I've had a lot of times where my opponent would try to hold up Swirling Sandstorm against me, and like I would see it with duress. All right, maybe I should have attacked first. That was definitely a mistake to do it this way. So what I'm hoping for is my opponent attacks and flashes in a ninja, and then I Magma Spray it. And then when they try to counter that, I Pyroblast their counterspell, and then I get to Blightning some of their cards away, and hopefully I draw a spell at some point. I've gotten a little flooded, like our opponent's on 3 lands, and I have 7. We do play a few more lands than them, and they have a little more ways to mitigate land draws, like they can shuffle them away with Brainstorm, stuff like that, but um, it's definitely can be a problem for us. If they play an Augur here, okay, I'm gonna go ahead and Magma Spray the first fairy. This would be a great spot for an Electrickery if we had one. I could, with these spells, when they hit the battlefield, if there's another fairy there, it also checks if there's a fairy there, both when it enters and when. I'm gonna counter that. Our Blightning's gonna get a lot worse if that resolves. It's still gonna be kind of bad just because they have this extra island. So I'm probably not gonna be playing my Blightning this turn. But alright, another Pyroblast is an incredible draw. So I don't want them to be able to discard their island with this Blightning, so I'm not gonna cast it this turn. Gonna pick up my Bajuka Bog. Again, I wanna keep them off of that Swirling Sandstorm. I do have to decide here. Augur Bolas. I'm gonna Pyroblast that. Our opponent set this card up. I know one of their cards is a counterspell, so no attacks is interesting. Well, I'm gonna attack. I would love if they wanted to trade, so I'm not gonna like Night's Whisper and try to find a kill spell for that or anything. So Night's Whisper, good start. Let's go ahead and cast this Blightning. I think this will probably draw out a Hydroblast if they have one. Okay, I don't think they have a Hydroblast then. They might have a Dispel. but I am just going to cast this on the fairy. Seems kind of crazy to discard both of those if you also have a Dispel, so gonna go ahead and bog that away. So if they have a Swirling Sandstorm, the card is dead again. It doesn't do anything if they don't have Threshold. Okay, they drew Delver. So we got super flooded, and I'm not sure exactly what to expect out of our opponent here, but um, I know they don't have any lands in their hand, so I don't really expect us to come back here, unfortunately. If this flips anytime soon, if it flips in the first like 2 turns, we're probably not gonna be able to come back. Okay, that's a good start. Hopefully they drew land. Okay, they did. They probably have a ninja though. Yeah, I would have been pretty shocked if they didn't have a ninja after all this time. Like that's definitely a card they have. And unfortunately, we've drawn approximately 1 billion lands, and we can't do anything about that. See if they play their Delver out or what they do. My guess is they're going to hold up a Spell Stutter Sprite. Like Trickery. So I'm just going to stay back with these goblins. We're not going to be able to race against a Delver anyway. Like Trickery is actually an okay draw. Hopefully this isn't an Augur. It looks like a Gush though. Yeah. Wonder if our opponent's going to start holding stuff in their hand sometime soon. So what am I hoping to draw here? Any card advantage spell would be great. I would really like to be able to bait out a spell starter sprite and then mop up both the Delver and the spell starter with an Electrickery. I'm gonna double block. Okay. Scred is fine. Puts me in an awkward spot here. I am gonna cast this. Hopefully they have nothing. I'm expecting a spell stutter though. So the reason I'm casting this now, instead of waiting to see what I draw, is it does kill this ninja if it doesn't get countered. My opponent got to kind of sculpt their hand for a long time simply because they couldn't find any lands, so they probably had a lot of good stuff. My opponent's thinking, which makes me think they're wondering like what they should counter it with, not if they should counter it. Like my opponent, like obviously this is super risky for my opponent. If I have any removal spell, this doesn't work. Fortunately, I don't have another one, and we got a little punished. Like on my turn, I could have bolted this, and then I could have trickeryed both of those. The problem is though, if I find even something like a Chainer's Edict, I can't necessarily kill the ninja. I guess I'll just hold this swamp. They don't have anything that can punish me for that. So that's going to be game over. We're going to lose this game too. We just got super flooded, and our opponent drew like 10 more spells than us. I'm not going to cast that into their counterspell. And unfortunately, even if they just let this resolve, they can just counter the things I draw. And if they have a ninja here, I don't think we can possibly win. Okay, no ninja. Let's go ahead and play this Night's Whisper. Get that countered probably. But they can also just let it resolve and hope I don't draw 2 spells that matter. And I didn't draw anything that matters, so definitely can't come back. Also dead to just a bolt now. So this is the kind of stuff, if I had drawn this a couple turns ago, we would have certainly won this game, but I drew like 2 lands or 3 lands in a row, too many. And they can just keep holding up stuff until, um, as long as I am not killing their Delver, none of my spells matter. And we're just dead to Delver. One thing I will say about this matchup is our opponent should have boarded out their Delvers. Um, so you don't want to play Delver against these removal heavy decks. It just doesn't usually survive. This is kind of an anomaly since I got so flooded and I got so few removal spells for this compared to the number of spells our opponent drew. Um, so you don't really want to be playing a card like this that just gets killed by a 1-for-1 removal spell. You want to play all your card advantage spells. Same way I took out my Thermal Alchemist. You don't really want Insectile Aberration, but it worked for our opponent there. They got to kill us kind of fast at the end there. So that was a little unfortunate. I do think we are favored in this matchup, but not incredibly so. One way that we are really advantaged though is in the clock. If we had killed this Delver and our opponent had to spend like 6, 7 more minutes, or not 6, 7 more minutes, like 2, 3 more minutes before we killed them in this game, suddenly they'd be down to 6 minutes for the third game. So that's you get a lot of wins against Blue Red Delver that way. All right, so obviously I just disgraced myself, can't get a trophy, but let's see if we can get a couple more treasure chests by finishing off with a strong 4-1. See you guys in round 5.